call meeting to order, roll call.
One moment, sorry. Sarah Thompson. Here. Mike Bickford.
Here.
Tom Trotter,
Here.
Lonnie Ringville,
Here.
Dennis Baker, Doug Mendenhall. And Kevin must be on her way.
Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I can move on to item 4, consent agenda. Any questions, comments? No questions or comments? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda for January?
Move to approve.
Second,
I'll second.
Mike Baker made the motion to approve the consent agenda. Sarah Thompson made the second. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Motion passes. Yeah, I don't think any were opposed. Okay. Move on to item 5, financial reports. Sherry.
Okay, first of all, does anybody have any questions?
I feel just because the price was really high for a while, right?
Yeah,
For the different categories of fuel.
yeah.
And the operations IT maintenance software. Is that expected to continue to rise?
So on the operations. The IT maintenance. Let's see,
I didn't write the actual number for it.
I think it was, must have been the 122, 330. 122, 330.
Oh, that's just the year to date though. There wasn't anything for January.
No, there
Yeah.
wasn't anything for. Yeah.
I was curious with 5 months remaining if there's gonna be any more.
Yes, there will.
Yes.
It seems that everything is going to subscription, so, there's, yeah, some increased costs there.
Okay. And just curious what, we have talked about, so if we haven't, don't worry. But the paratransit license fees was like $5,290 over like the,
Those were the new vehicles.
okay,
Yeah, I had to, get with the DMV and license and, so use tax and all of that for 9 vans. So some of them, most of them fell under the paratransit.
yeah.
Preventive maintenance. Issue. Looks like we're about to bust that.
Yes.
A lot of big ticket items, I think, with most of the buses, like the big buses, we've had some big ticket items.
That
And
was-
with inflation, like the costs have gone through the roof.
Yeah,
Right. And with the new vehicles, though, we should see that start to come down some.
and the call center, I think it was payroll, was that 73% for the?
Cable?
I think it was for payroll, call center.
The call center is at 51, so 73% on the paratransit. So the paratransit and the demand response, we kind of, when we budgeted, we weren't sure how many drivers we were gonna have under para and how many under demand, so
Okay.
between those 2 buckets is kind of where all the
Yeah.
money is, so sometimes,
Yeah, I noticed one was far under and one, so.
yep.
That might just- Kind of balance out. And the cash on hand is like 90%, is that going to go above 100%, do you think, or is it just gonna?
Do you want to speak to that or do you want me to?
I mean, the cash on hand, so the cash on hand right now, at where we are today,
It's critical.
yeah, is critical. Right now, we are at just a little over 80,000 in the bank. We've already gotten our third quarter SCIP funds in. So we've got enough. We don't even have, well, we made payroll for this week, but we're gonna be,
We have income from medical transportation that will bring us through payroll next time, but we have reached the critical spot that we started talking about back in October or November.
Yeah, that was, in the packet, it's 200,000 less basically on the check. Statement, yeah.
we paid bills.
Payroll was what?
Payroll's
91.
91.
91,000. We're at 47.
Yeah, somebody else in the meeting.
Sharon just signed it.
Oh, Sharon is our representative from Umpqua Bank.
So I do have some outstanding bills that need to be paid right now, but we have to keep holding until some of our medical transportation money comes in and quarter two reports are submitted and we start getting some of that federal funding back in on reimbursements.
And when's that report due?
This week,
This week.
it'll be done on time.
So what will happen after next week?
So once we submit the report, then the process for reimbursement starts. But it's usually 4 to 6 weeks before we see those reimbursements. So that's why we're nervous.
We do have the COVID funds that we can utilize as well, that will help to kind of bring us
It'll
down.
balance things out.
Are those reimbursement funds or are they?
They're reimbursement,
Reimbursement.
but they're for
So again,
operations.
I know that, again,
Yes.
takes time to get it back in.
Right.
So, yeah, what are your thoughts about what's gonna happen if we, say you said we only have a week of,
So, that's, we have on 7.1, the line of credit is, again, up for discussion. And we have Courtney Dawes online, who is the, person that I had contacted for bond counsel. So if we, engage with her and accept the terms that, Sharon and the, Umpqua Bank provided for us, then the first thing that happens is there is an immediate drawdown that we have to take that will cover the cost of the line of credit for the bond counsel and for the bank, all of those. There is an additional piece of money that we would also have to request. I'm sorry, there's
Go to more,
there's a comment over there.
that's, yeah, where do you?
Click
see
on more.
click on more and click on shop.
Chat.
I am so not used to being the one to do this. There we go. So Jennifer Boardman said, what did she say?
You can scroll
Yes, oh, there we go. You can get reimbursements within 10 to 12 days if you receive electronic payments once they have been submitted. They cannot be processed until the report is finalized. Only takes 4 to 6 weeks if the report is not finalized on time. Okay, so our report will be done on time. Sherry and I have scheduled time, not tomorrow, but the next day, to go over all the details to make sure that we're in alignment with all of our funding allocations. And at that point, between the two of us, the report can be input within a matter of hours. It's just finalizing the numbers and which funds that they're gonna come out of.
Yeah.
So there's that. That is really good news. Thank you, Jennifer, for that. I did not realize it could be done that quickly. So that right there answers the question, and this is where we start to build the prudent reserve that we had talked about, because we have increased the number of volunteer drivers, and that will. I did look into the medical transportation, and we
Thanks.
are actually covering those.
Some of this probably should reserve for the line of credit
Mhm.
section. It does.
Well, for financial report though, the medical transportation is actually paying for itself as it was.
Yeah.
Going forward, it will become income again. So that's the positive of it.
Anybody online have something, anything to say? Nobody's unmuting themselves. So I'll take that as a no. Do we have a motion to, if there's no further discussion, do we have a motion to approve agenda item 5, the January financial report? Mike,
What am I saying?
Uh-oh, they're echoing.
They must be in the same room.
I'll move
Yeah.
to approve.
okay, Mike made a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
That's scary. I'll second.
Okay. And we have a second by Sarah Thompson. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? No opposed? All right, motion passes. Any public comment for on agenda items only?
Yeah, Jim Delisle. Most of these, Jerry can probably answer. But are the IT maintenance software prices ever gonna come down? They seem
No.
to be very high,
They,
or are they maybe we're not budgeting enough, is that, or is it a learning curve?
no, with, like with Route Match, for instance, we've been in conversations with them because we want them to check the bill out because it has gone up quite a bit. And make sure they're not duplicating any charges on there. So we've been working with a couple of the guys over there, so, we're hoping that they've maybe duplicated something. But yes, it seems like everything is going up, yeah, it's
Right,
almost
right.
doubling.
The same, going along with that, the tablets and cell phones is always that way too. Is part of this because we have more buses, no more drivers, we're having, okay, then fine, you know.
Right.
It's growing pain.
When we add
Yes.
vehicles, we have to add phones for them, so the
Right.
drivers have a phone. So we did have to add some new phones, on this one,
And new tablets for
some new
the,
tablets for the
vans.
drivers, for the vans.
Right. And Tom had already mentioned a couple things I had on here, so I go, okay, we don't have to talk to those, you already got that answered. And this is something just for my information, I was looking at the deposits and automatic transfers and everything. And a lot of them were listed, the transfer, ACHs are different amounts of money showing different accounts and on the same day.
Those are our volunteer drivers. So the volunteer drivers, we pay them every Monday. Well, I submit the ACH on Mondays. And they just get paid
So
depending on
that's-
how many rides and miles and all of that that they
Okay,
do.
that's
So
what
they're
that
always
is.
gonna be different, but I do them all as like a batch.
Oh, okay, one of, this is just under the heading 700, but 122,700. What are non-capital equipment? This is, I see this and I go, what is that?
Let's pull that one back out. You said 122,700?
It's probably under 700, any of them, but that's where I just happen to notice it. That's operations.
That was the little garage enclosure that you purchased for out
Oh,
outside.
I'm
Oh,
storage.
unit?
yeah,
Okay.
a building that we have not yet built.
Okay, all right. It's just something, but well, what is,
Yeah, it could be
Non-capital.
computers. In the call center, we had a computer that we had to purchase for an additional dispatcher, so.
all right, that's okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Alright, move on to old business, item 7.1. Line of credit update.
So in previous meetings, we have discussed a possible line of credit to bridge the funding gap that occurs when a payment is due, like with the vehicles that we have just gone through this process of needing to pay for the vehicles before the reimbursement comes. And we had allocated the match, but not the entire amount of the vehicle. So our portion of the total cost is usually 10 to 20%, which we had allocated those funds, but we had not allocated to be able to pay for the entire purchase up front and wait for the reimbursement, which is pretty much how every capital project moving forward is going to be. With the project for building the preventive maintenance building and, parking structure and so on. So the previous conversation, had been, regarding bond counsel, and we have Courtney Dawes, that is able to speak to any of the questions that you had regarding that portion of the conversation. And then Sharon Gusandi, is our representative from Umpqua Bank. And so she would be able to speak to any questions that you might have regarding the line of credit and how that works. They also just sent the resolution with a markup, which is what I provided at the beginning of the meeting. For those of you that are online, I apologize. That was about the fourth email that you got with updates today. And then there is a clean version as well that I provided. So with that, if you don't have any questions for me, I would turn it over to Courtney Dawes, who is on the screen.
Oh. With the. Yeah, you said 10 to 20% is what we have.
That's what we
So like
allocated.
last year, we didn't have this. I mean, it didn't seem like an issue. So like, what changed to make that become an issue or even new line of credit?
Well, from the beginning, all of the funding that we received through the STIF funding has been allocated to projects. It hasn't necessarily been spent in the initial biennium that it was allocated, and it was been rolled forward. And then with the increase in cost for the operations, that then some of the funding that we had rolled forward, then we allocated with permission from ODOT to cover current projects. And then the timeline between when we set our budget and allocate what should be rolling forward. And then 6 months later is when that plan actually goes into place. And so there are a lot of differences between what we had planned for and what actually happened.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, it's kind of playing catch up to get the plan to match what's happened in that 6 months in between.
The last meeting, wasn't there a mistake as well?
Mhm. Well, there have been a couple of mistakes, and I have to own I missed the reporting deadline by a day for our fourth quarter report, and that resulted in about $200,000 not being reimbursed to us that we had anticipated as being reimbursed. But beyond that, the increase in cost is really what has happened. And I was able to provide the one breakdown for the biennium and still working on the second biennium for you guys.
Yeah, some of that stuff, we'd have to see this more recent biennium to see how it carried forward. Yeah, wasn't there some money that spent that should have been reserved for capital project as we start?
So that's what, with the increased costs for operations, what we had in reserve in the bank, we had in the general fund.
Mhm.
And it was not being, it's separated in the software, but it was not separated as we were spending it.
Yeah.
So we actually crossed over and used funds that were allocated to reserve for the capital expenses to cover the operations costs. Yes.
Perhaps
so
I
that's-
I thought we were getting an update this week on that, but we can put that maybe on not an agenda or something.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway.
Is that $200,000 reimbursement coming back in the next quarter?
Yes, for most of them, the reimbursement comes the following quarter. So the end of the quarter is, say, December 31st, and our reporting deadline is February 15th, which is this week. So everything that we've spent from October through January is, that's all money that is out there. The October through December will be reimbursed here in the next couple of weeks. What we've already spent in January, we're again floating until the end of March. So it's an ongoing cycle, and we didn't start with enough of a reserve to begin with to cover the increased costs that we've seen over the last 3 years.
Okay.
Okay,
So real quick question. I'm looking at the financials, the July through January. We've had 853,000 come in on the bus replacement fund, but we've allocated or spent, according to budget, 1.4 million.
Correct.
Why are we putting more in than what we're getting? Or is it a
Well-
reimbursement?
So 20% of that is, the expectation is that that's our match. But we had, when we placed the orders, placed those orders to fall within the confines of the grant. And then there were the cost increases that were passed on to us from the vendor. And so we accepted those cost increase because we can't go without vehicles. We can't provide service without vehicles. And then they increased again. So we had already anticipated going over our match amount. And this is kind of what I provided at the last meeting. Then we ended up going over that match amount on just one order by about 67,000. But also there were 2 vehicles that I had been directed by the board like 2 years ago when we placed the orders, because it was in our plan to go ahead and order those 2 vehicles that were just to be paid for with STIF funding. Those 2 vehicles started at 78,000 apiece, and they came in at 109,000 apiece. So those kinds of cost increases that we saw were just far and above anything that we had ever anticipated. But we were in a position where we needed to accept the vehicles.
okay. So we have the guest Courtney Dowes. Anyone have questions for them? This is my first time seeing this agenda item. I think it was on the packet earlier today
Oh,
with all this stuff.
within it, yeah, I said
haven't had
that at
time
the
to-
end of the day
Yeah, I was at work. It would take me a while to,
to digest.
yeah.
So Courtney, did you want to go through the resolution and the changes that we've added? Or,
Happy to. Courtney Dowse, formerly with Mercer O'Shannon, I'm transitioning my bond practice to Foster Garvey. I have reviewed a resolution that the board previously adopted and made some updates that you have in front of you. The updates are intended to clarify that this is a interim line of credit that will revolve and is to be in the amount of no more than $1 million at any one time. That the expected cost of the project is expected to total $9 million. And that this revolving line can be used for capital costs of the project. It also contemplates that the district has reviewed the term sheet provided by Umpqua Bank. I believe the original date was November 10th, which has been updated as of today. I'll let Sharon speak to the updates, but this resolution also delegates authority to individuals at the district to make determinations regarding the interim financing. And I'm happy to entertain any questions.
What are the bank fees that are associated with this?
Well, on this proposal here, it says 5,500 loan fee. And then, and banks out of pocket expenses. Which doesn't say what that value is, which should be kind of good to know what that could be. Rather than just, out of pocket expenses. And then it says banks council review fee not to exceed 3,500. And it says all bank fees are due at closing. Does that help, Mike?
So this is the information that was forwarded at the end of the day today with the packet.
So is it 5,500 plus 3,500? Or is it
Plus,
at least 3,500 and could be as much as 5,500?
Well, it also says plus banks out of pocket expenses, so. That one doesn't say what the value is,
It's 5,500 plus the 3,500, Mike,
doesn't it also includes out of pocket though?
and the out of pocket.
Sharon, do you want to speak to what those out-of-pocket costs might be? And you're muted.
You can always type in the chat.
I don't have a way to unmute
You
her.
can maybe scroll down and see if she might type something. On the chat part, no?
Should be able to unmute on the top right. On the little microphone there, on her, to the right of her name.
Ask to unmute.
Oh, okay.
Are you there, Sharon?
I do not.
Yeah, I think she has to do it herself,
Yeah,
because you can mute them, but,
yeah.
and unmute them.
Okay.
So they know, I know on your window down there, it's highlighted, I don't know, there could be something going on there. For what says Zoom, see how it's orange? That means there's like a pop-up.
Oh, that's our original screen.
Okay, so yeah, there's nothing going on there.
No.
We kind of need Sharon to be here, right?
I'm kind of at a loss on
Can
this
we
one.
circle back? Maybe she just got detained for a
You
reason.
wanna postpone this good item and go on to different things? for now? Maybe we can come back to it later today, if she does show up again. Okay, so we're gonna just is it called tabling this for now? Yeah, table item, agenda item 7.1, update on resolution 2304, we'll come back to it later today. And then move on to agenda item 7.2, establishing agency goals for 2024.
Okay, so at our last meeting, we had gone through recommended goals and and the prioritization, excuse me, of those goals. So this list is just those goals prioritized in the way that it was agreed to at our previous meeting, and fleshed out a little bit with what that would look like in the activity here at FTD.
Any questions, comments, concerns with agenda item 7.2?
Well, just one comment that sorry, I have an echo here and it's just driving me nuts. Hold on, I gotta go somewhere where I'm not getting an echo. Okay, so on the goals, I mean, I like that they're all specific and measurable, so it provides some accountability there. But really the goals I think should be from 7/1/24 to 7/1/25, because I think the idea is that it may be something that we need to budget for.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah, that makes sense.
okay.
Some of them are in the time period, but some of the other ones are not. Most of them are not.
But, yeah,
Oh, I see. So, like by April 30th, 2024. I see.
Right. So they should be, you know, like you have one that was between, I think it was on the stiff grants. But you had it, you know, it was August 1st. That was a succession plan. And kind of one that's 7/1, but really it's what are we going to do between 7/1/24 and what are we, you know, for that fiscal year?
Okay, so a lot of the timeline can actually remain the same, only just changing it from 24 to 25. Because the grant cycle is still gonna be in that February, March timeframe. So instead of March 2024, there will be another grant cycle in March of 2025. And then same with the ridership, we can put that final date as 6/30/2025.
And so you're thinking that'll be 10% as well?
I believe that we can increase by 10% and maintain that, yes.
Okay. And then there's the board training, so that's definitely going to already have happened, and the safety committee.
Right, but it's also ongoing creation of a safety culture, because that's important as just part of what we do. Safety needs to be the number one goal for our drivers and our office staff.
Right. It's a goal, but it's not measurable. If it's just ongoing, continuous, I mean, that's an expectation. So I would think it would need to be reworded. So anything that's kind of on, it needs to be specific and, you know, measurable at a specific point in time that we think we're going to be able to achieve.
like reduction in accidents.
So I would think that one would need to say, you know, would need to be rebuilt. Maybe it's something else after you do the safety committee. You're going to have something else done with the safety committee now in place. You're going to do X, Y, or Z.
Okay, so I can absolutely revise with those comments in mind and change the dates to be more in alignment with the fiscal year.
Under financial sustainability, with the issues that we're having, can we add something in there around, like reporting, set a goal for our reporting? Like maybe set like a week ahead of the deadline or something, just so that we can measurable, we can keep track of that.
What type of reporting?
Our reimbursement reports and stuff, the way we get our funding.
Yeah.
And for your, the succession planning stuff, are you guys doing, like cross-training with like your transit supervisor and that's what you mean by that, right? It's just so that somebody else knows what they're doing in case something happens.
Mhm. So we've started that with the reporting process, so that not only Sherry and I will know how to do the reporting, but we're also gonna cross-train Rebecca to have enough understanding of what's going on, that she would be able to be that person to approve the report
Oh, okay.
in my absence, if that were a necessity.
On the representing transit, that's another one of those that's just sort of ongoing.
Mhm.
But I'm wondering if representing transit could include things like maybe it's an IGA with Sutherland, Winston, Douglas County, Roseburg, ODOT, to be informed of upcoming projects. So, you know, we've seen things with development that have been proposed and want to wipe out bus stops, or you and I talked about perhaps an ODOT project that may build a couple turnouts, but just making sure that you guys are in the loop and you're being notified of land use decisions and have the opportunity to comment and getting those kind of things in there. So representing transit and improving coordination amongst the different communities, at least in the fixed
Yep.
route area. Probably, you know, Myrtle Creek, all that, Riddle. Yeah. So an IGA or something, or some kind of a process developed or something might be your actual item.
Okay, I can do that, and I can also do that with as far as the putting agreements in place for emergency procedures for the local care facilities as well. That's something I'm working with Fire District number 2 to get some of those in place.
Did we ever do anything with Douglas County Emergency Management for
So,
evacuations and use of transit buses and things like that?
yeah, the gentleman that was doing that retired.
Right.
And so I just made contact with his replacement like maybe 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So yes, that's still on the agenda.
What about with the ESD
That could be a safety thing.
or like UCC?
For
Well, representing transit, I mean.
You got it.
When you're working with the cities and transit agencies, ODOT, but ESD and like UCC might have things that we could collaborate.
with them.
Yeah.
Mhm. So there is something in the works with UCC, but we've got to wait until our building project
Yeah.
is complete, because we can utilize our electric bus facility, which will be new and state of the art, as an opportunity for an apprenticeship program through UCC.
So I guess that I suspect that we're going to be tabling this,
The next.
The next-
yeah.
tabling item, agenda item 7.2. Unless anybody has any other thing they want to raise regarding it. So on to agenda item 8, new business 8.1 ODHS first Thursday presentation. Catherine Garland.
Oh, that's who you are.
Thank you so much. And then this is my supervisor, Roberto Perez, who really has been secondhand at the development of First Thursday. So first off, thank you guys for the opportunity to share about something that we're very passionate about that's happening in the community. Has anyone heard of First Thursday prior to the setup of this meeting?
Not
Yeah.
Roseburg.
No, okay,
No.
cool. No, cool. That just gives context to the depth of how much to share. We love telling the story about how First Thursday started, because it was not an event that either one of us ever thought would kick off the ground or grow as rapidly as it has. I'm gonna pass around our flyer for our next event coming up on March 7th. So first Thursday happens on the first Thursday of every month. We creatively came up with the title so that no one would ever forget when it is. It happens every month. It started back the summer of 2022. My role at ODHS, I work for the self-sufficiency program, so the SNAP, TANF, medical benefits, grant for domestic violence survivors. And you know, Roberto and I have another partner who does the same work. We had been talking about for years, it felt like, how do we fill in the gaps of resource needs, especially for the most low income, I'm sorry, sir, the most low income and vulnerable populations in Douglas County. And then one summer day in 2022, Feeding Umpqua, our local food bank partner, they contacted us and said, hey, we have an excess of produce from the master gardeners this year. A great harvest, but it's gonna go bad if we, you know, just give it away to how we normally would. How would you feel if we set up shop at ODHS right out in the parking lot, and gave it away? We said, sure, that seems easy enough. We got tables, come on over. So we did that every 2 weeks for about 4 months through October of 2022. And towards that time, you know, conversations were happening. Well, harvest is ending. What are we gonna do? Because at that point, within 4 months, there was easily 100 people waiting for the truck to get there, the back to unload, and for, you know, produce to be available because it's free. And I was, as I was sitting here, you know, we're talking about the cost of everything going up. The expectation to feed a family in a healthy way on what our community gets in SNAP benefits is unrealistic a lot of times. So for us, it made a lot of sense. Of course, there would be hundreds of people wanting free, fresh produce, but what are we gonna do now that that's not gonna be available? There wasn't a budget line to continue this. With Roberto's blessing, I said, you know, can we try something new? You know, let's play off of this momentum that's already been built. What would it look like for us to invite as many community partners as would like to come to our office within the first 10 days of the month? And that was strategic because that is the time period that if someone on SNAP benefits has an interruption in their benefits that month, they're gonna find out within those first 10 days and they're gonna be at our doors, likely first thing the next morning when they realize their food stamps or their cash isn't on their card. So in November of 2022, we soft launched. I think I told Roberto, I don't want to promote it, and I don't want to tell anyone because what if no one showed up? It was easier just not to talk about it. But we soft launched with 4 partners, tabling very simply in our lobby spaces. We had Feeding Umpqua there, providing perishable goods at that point, canned food. They did have some bread that they had gotten donated, but looked a little different. Same idea as what we had done with the produce days. Plus, we had Cricket Wireless providing free phones, HIV Alliance, and maybe 1 or 2 other providers at the time. 4 partners, we served 12 people that day, and it felt like a huge win in my book. So then at that point, we said, okay, let's try to build this and make it a little bit bigger each time. As far as marketing goes, it was just word of mouth. We really didn't promote it loudly or expensively. So the next month we had 5 partners. Soon Adapt, their laundry and shower trailer started pulling up every first Thursday to provide laundry service and showers to that demographic. Fast forward from soft launch November 22 until June, this past June 23. And we had outgrown our lobby spaces, which if you've been to ODHS, we have 3 separate lobby spaces. We probably had we were talking about the other day, what, 25
5, at
partners?
least 25 partners throughout the 3 different lobbies and
Mhm.
aisleways.
And it was starting to become a fire hazard. Our district manager would come down, she'd kind of peek in, you know, you'd kind of be like hush hush about it because we didn't expect that each month. While we hoped it would grow, the capacity in which it grew and our ability to scale kind of came at a head. And so we'd been making plans during the springtime, and come June of last year, we moved the whole event outside, which maybe some of your bus drivers may have complained about us. And this is when I realized in about June or July that I wanted to make friends with all of you for a few reasons. One, we moved the event outside. We took over a big space of our parking lot. We shuffled a little bit. We completely maximize every square foot of parking space and the square footage for First Thursday. But we fit 40 partners outside. We started to receive some grant funding at this point, and so we now provide, since June, a hot meal. Our staff generously donate clothing for women, children, and men every month. That's what I was doing at 6:30 this morning for a few hours, is just sorting clothes. But clothing, food, a hot meal, plus 40 partners, and the event exploded this summer. We saw an average of 250 community members coming each month. And again, it's the constant issue we deal with an event that we're scaling, but by the end of the summer, we thought, well, the weather's not gonna be this great forever. We need to move back inside. Long story short, right now, we've moved it into St. Joseph's Gymnasium on Stanton Street. We're still able to host 40 partners there. And what I'm getting to in all of this is the event's continuing to grow. We're getting ready to move the event back outside in our parking lot on Harvard. Our staff couldn't be more excited. It was a block party every first Thursday over the summer. And this year, we're actually moving it outside a month early in May. So this year with this event, as we began to scale it and receive some grant funding, we realized that accessibility is a huge issue for a lot of people. Whether you live in Roseburg proper or Glendale, Brittle, Glide, you name it, on the outskirts of the county. I'm probably preaching to the choir, but it's an inequitable distribution of our resources. Someone in Glendale, it is not easy for them to get to First Thursday. I looked at the bus routes a little bit to educate myself, and it takes hours. And so one, I wanted to inform and just share the exciting things that we're doing in the community. First Thursday is going to continue to grow, but in order for it to grow and be more accessible, we need some help. So we do come to the table, again, like I said, with grant funding. But we're hoping to partner with you all in a more tangible way. More than just upsetting your bus drivers on a First Thursday because people are parking in the wrong spot, and we've learned a lot from last year, and we'll certainly do better this year. But I guess in the least, we are prepared to purchase a lot of bus tickets. But we also just want to open up the conversation about what would it look like for possibly an enhanced or express route service on First Thursday. Not talking about much, maybe an additional, I think it goes once an hour to DHS right now at the 45 of the hour. But if it were an additional south to north route from Glendale, stopping in, Myrtle Creek, I don't know, wherever, Winston, having a couple additional stops where perhaps a little bit more of the county can get to access as many resources as we're excited to show off each month.
Well, it does seem like our thoughts are aligned with your guys' thoughts. I did read some of your plans online around, you know, ideas of expansion at a certain point, future state of V-Trans and how that goes. And so we are aligned in trying to connect as many of the local communities to the resource and being able to have transportation back and forth. And we want to get the resources of all the partners, because there's a lot of great work being done by all of our partners. You know, medical screenings and dental screenings and resources for domestic violence situations and homeless resources. So trying to get those available to folks in an easy way. That's kind of the goal. The next step, as she said, that's the next growth level for First Thursday or this resource fair. Would be to somehow get it to the folks that are in the outlying community. That can be done either with transportation, and then on the other hand, I noticed that you guys were talking about increasing your ridership. And I would be interested to know a little bit more of the details on how, it's a good goal to say 10% increase in ridership, but what's the mechanism that you guys are planning on doing that with? This might be an opportunity for us to do that. We could possibly do some certain events to advertise your stuff along with First Thursday to get people to come there. Cause it does seem like whenever we've had pre-COVID or pre-pandemic, we did some outreach to the local communities, and we could bring quite a few folks to those events from the local communities and give a lot of information out. This would be something that would also benefit if we also included you guys in that and have that transportation. You know, I didn't realize the budgeting situation. But again, we're all trying to increase ridership and increase access to folks in Douglas County. So, that's.
Yeah, and perhaps, I don't know, I like to dream, but perhaps even like an incentivization program for folks who are coming to First Thursday, encouraging ridership, 'cause I know our parking lot, we max out capacity each month, so, we came to, because we wanna be friends and partner somehow, but knowing that really accessing resources is a huge issue in the community, and you all are a big solution to it, so.
That would be kind of one of my questions. We have noticed, the ridership to First Thursday, people do utilize your services to get there. Now that we're over at the gym, there is a stop or a couple of stops, one going this one that way. And we do notice people getting on and off. I do also notice more of your smaller transport vans going back and forth. So have you noticed an increase on those requests for that event or for that event plus the other stuff that goes along with that, grocery shopping and medical transportation and stuff?
Yeah, so yes, our ridership has increased both in the fixed route and in the demand response where they're riding in the vans. This is a very timely conversation because I'm actually working with Chesapeake County at this time to make that connection with a fixed route down to Wolf Creek, which would also hit Glendale, Azalea, and then express out on up here to Roseburg. So that's very timely. And we're talking about using the smaller vehicles because initially, anytime you launch a new service, it takes a little while to build it. And so we have more of the small vehicles right now that are in good working order that we could send out to do something like that. Also, Senior Services has reached out to us about getting people to the dining sites down in Glendale. So there's a lot of potential for what you're talking about, aligning with what we're currently planning to do. And so I would love to get a meeting scheduled with you and we can throw out a map. We've got a big map that'll cover the table.
Perfect.
And we can draw on it, you know, and figure some things out because I think it's a great program.
Yeah.
And you're right, this is exactly what we try to do is connect people to the services that they need.
Absolutely.
Also, I mean, on another note, not First Thursday, but been talking a lot to aging and people with disabilities, senior services. And we were gonna do some informational kind of town hall type meetings in the different communities, and that might be an opportunity to you'd get the word out about the transportation.
Right, how to schedule the ride and things of that nature,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah,
Last ask, because I can't talk to an organization without asking. You are always welcome to come, or someone from your organization to come table at First Thursday. I mean, I think even just getting that sort of information out there is worthwhile. But at the same time, if you're not able to, we always want to extend, if you have any information that you want shared out to the community, it's a great outlet, and you can always forward that our way too.
okay, well, send Sherry.
It's really fun. Roberta cooks hot dogs for hours.
No dunk tank this year.
We did a dunk tank, it's a little too early in the summer. So still thinking about it.
No, that's a very good opportunity to partner, and I'm excited.
Wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Does anybody online have any questions for Catherine or Roberta? Hard time. Stealing your. Stealing your thunder.
That's fine. I don't think there's any questions.
Okay.
Unless there's anything in the chat.
Are we able to get?
You can close that top window, and then the chat will be a bit bigger too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh, how about
Yeah, nothing. Okay.
Thank you. for
Yeah.
coming.
Thanks for-
Thank you.
And we'll be in touch soon then.
that? Awesome, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. We would like to see get Sharon.
Yeah.
Or possibly Courtney may be able to communicate with Sharon and relay
Yeah, you can do that.
the information. Are you still there, Courtney?
I'm so
Hi.
here. Thank you for having me.
Are you able to communicate with Sharon maybe via email?
I've heard from Sharon. I believe she's on the line.
Okay. Oh, there
Oh,
she
there she
is.
Yes,
So,
I'm
you know,
unmuted now. Sorry about that.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So they have questions regarding the fees, and I'm gonna let Tom take it away.
Yeah, so we'll return, next on the agenda is actually the old previous item, 7.1 line credit update, right?
Yes.
Maybe we can. Okay. So I remember I think the last question had to do with the fees,
Out of pocket.
the out-of-pocket expenses. The bank's out-of-pocket expenses, if there could be like a rough idea of what that could be?
Yes. Do you have a copy of the term sheet in front of you or no?
Yes, the
Please.
non-proposals. Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, great. So the bank actually has two fees. One is a loan fee and one is our legal counsel fee. The legal counsel fee is capped at the 3,500, so it won't be any more than that. And the bank's fee is 5,500 for the 2-year line of credit.
Okay, so that includes the out-of-pocket expenses.
Yes.
Okay.
There should not be any other out-of-pocket expenses except for the district's bond counsel.
Oh, and that would be the,
3,500.
Right.
yes, with
Is that-
Courtney. Mhm. Oh, no,
No, that's-
the bond
that's
counsel
separate.
was different, yes.
12,000.
12,000, yes.
Okay. I know, the interest is due month on the 15th, so potentially we wouldn't have to pay till March. If you were to, and as soon as March, if we approved it, going through.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I would
Yeah,
just,
I'm sorry, it would depend on when the facility ends up closing. So if it doesn't end up closing until actually March 1 or 2, let's just say, then it would be April.
okay.
And at the, under other requirements, it does show that at closing, an initial advance on the line of credit would be allowed to cover the cost of issuance and,
I see. So like, basically that covers the fees.
yes, we'd still have to pay it back, but it wouldn't be out of pocket immediately.
So it'd be covering the fees with credit.
Yes.
But there's a rationale behind that. There's something that first advance does, and Courtney can speak to that.
Sure, in order to determine that the line of credit has been issued for tax exempt purposes or for tax purposes, there needs to be draw on the line of at least $50,000.
But that'd be way more than the cost.
Way more than the cost.
So what would happen to the rest of the draw?
Well, we would, if, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, the excess of the draw could either be used for projects, because the facility is only allowed for those projects. Or, and Courtney, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's a legal reason that they can't do this, but once it's been advanced and the fees have been, you could take the excess and pay down the balance of the line of credit.
I'm just curious, because on here it says to cover cost of issuance, like you think it would say,
That'd
and
be like
something
the
else.
loan fee and the.
But if we can use it for other stuff, it's just saying the paperwork, right?
Mhm.
And I believe
Like
it's in the line of draw certificate that defines what it can be utilized for.
well, this one, okay.
So this line of credit draw certificate is what we would utilize every time that we needed to draw down. And it would have to be submitted with the reimbursement request that we had already submitted to ODOT. So it would explain what it was for, and it would show that we've already requested reimbursement.
Yeah, just to be really clear, I mean, so the lawyer might be able to tell us this, so what would exactly cover cost of issuance is with the initial draw? I'm just wondering, because the other draws, like, it's pretty obvious in the language that that's what you can use it for, but on there, I prefer things in writing, I guess, to be really clear that yes, you can use that for like our capital projects at the excess, that initial
Yeah.
draw.
I don't have a problem, if you would like that a little clearer. I can put on their issuance cost, and or project expense.
Okay, yeah, that'd be, I don't know, whatever people think is matters, anything online has an idea about that, or just,
The proceeds of the line of credit can be used for capital projects and cost of issuance, which include fees related to the project or related to the financing, or other expenses that are properly capitalized to the project. While have the floor, Sharon, there is a question in the term sheet whether the maturity is 1 or 2 years from closing. I believe it's 2. Just wanted to clarify that for the record.
It is 2 years.
Thank you.
Two years from closing.
oh, yes, it's 1 2 year,
Oh,
should just be 2 year.
initially it was 1 year, and then due to the length of the project, so that's probably how we managed that.
Yeah, I went in and corrected the 1 to 2. That's why I put it in parentheses for you from the original term sheet that I provided. It didn't make sense to keep it at a 1-year maturity date, and that's primarily because the projects would go beyond that, and then we would be back here spending these fees again to renew the line in 1 year. So this way, if it goes out to 2 years or beyond the 1 year, you can pay it off anytime. That's not a problem. But you don't want it to mature before your projects are completed, because then you're looking at renewing the facility and new documents, new costs, and so forth. So it makes sense to do it for 2 years.
Yeah, this would include the capital projects for next door.
Mhm.
So that,
That's specifically what this is for.
yeah, that would be one thing to be concerned about not happening within 2 years.
Yeah. And this would be the thing that would ensure that we didn't have those kinds of delays.
If there was, there's a NEPA delay or whatever, that could be, what if it was 3 years, and so that loan matures, we'd have to get another one with pay more fees, right?
Well, our grants expire at the end of 2026.
Okay.
Yeah.
And hopefully it moves faster than
Yes.
that.
So my hope tonight was that the information provided would ease the nerves of anybody that might be concerned that we would utilize this for something other than capital. But it's also with the low prudent reserve that we have, which is minimal. It's the thing that will keep us from having to delay for 2 to 6 weeks at a time, every time that we submit expenses for reimbursement. Which would be a rough way to do the project.
And so just to clarify for me, this is specific to capital projects only, not operations.
Correct.
That's correct. And the resolution currently describes the project as capital improvements of the district's operations facility and improvements thereto, as well as costs of the financing.
So I do have a question for Jennifer. The interest rate and the amount that we owe for interest payments, can we use loan money to pay the interest?
You're breaking up, Lonnie. Can you repeat that question?
So the loan or the grants that we have, we use those grants to pay the interest that is accrued on the line of credit, or is that just so?
He's asking, can we use money from our grants to pay the interest that's owed on the line of credit, or is that a disallowed cost by ODOT?
I would say that if your grant agreement is written to allow those costs, then yes, it would be allowable, but I would have to look to see where those costs could be. They possibly could be administrative. I would have to do some research to double check. I wouldn't want to say something and not give you the correct answer, but I'm kind of thinking with the ones that you have currently, it would be no, unless you have that specifically outlined, especially with the projects you have in your STIF. So I would need to look into it to see if that is an allowable administrative expense, because I think you have some grants that do allow administration, but I'll have to double check.
If it came down to it, farebox revenue could always be used for that. Because we have to utilize that every quarter towards some portion of our operations.
What is our current farebox revenue monthly?
This quarter, it was 9,400.
And then contracts goes with that. Advertising and contracts are income.
Oh, yeah, our advertising was 82, so about 18,000 we had between those
17,600.
What are we currently using those to pay for?
We just, on our budget details, subtract it from the operations costs as to reduce the cost of operations before we apply the grant and the match.
Yeah, I probably wanna see more from Jennifer on that because, right, I mean, if we're already not able to pay some of our bills and we're deducting that fare box revenue from our operating costs already, to
Well,
reduce our costs,
we
how are we gonna
have,
allocate it to a loan?
right, well, we can allocate it to that, but we have the CARES funding that is coming online for this quarter, starting this quarter.
323,000.
It was 518,000 for ops and 270,000, I believe. might have been
It was a
230.
total of,
That was
748,000.
Actually, 430. The CARES money, and we had 0% so far.
Right, because we just got
It
the
just became
grant
available
agreement.
February 1st.
I mean, on the annual budget is 329,485.
That was our
Oh,
previous,
that was different.
that was our previous allocation.
That's what we budgeted annually, but so far we've been awarded 748,000.
I mean, on here it just says 329,000 was 0 from July 23 to January 24. 1-00-10.
Yeah, we haven't received any.
So
Yeah.
the new total would be like, what you said, 500 or something.
A total of 740.
748,000.
So maybe
You
like
said 518 is
200%.
for operations and what's the other 100?
Para.
Yeah, it's.
So it'd be close to 200% once we receive the awards. Okay.
That's the boost that will make up the difference for us to get us back on track.
Mhm. So the initial drop, basically get from line of credit and then pay off. And it's monthly, it accrues monthly. So if we got the first, she said it was like April 2nd, the earliest, right? So it'd still be really low until then, so something could happen, right? It's not very good.
I'm not quite sure I follow what you,
I mean, if, I'm just,
The initial 50,000.
well, that, but no, I'm saying that between now and then, we still have like a really serious issue of funding.
from what Jennifer just put in the chat earlier, if we
Okay.
submit on the 15th, we could potentially have our reimbursement by about the 29th or possibly March 1st. So about the time our next payroll is due.
Okay. That wouldn't be the CARES, it'd be something else.
It would be a
Some of it would be
combination.
CARES.
Yeah,
Okay.
be a combination of our federal reimbursements through our current grants and the COVID grant.
Karen math and
So with interest, it'd be about 53,645. I think for 1 month total cost.
Or we could turn around and pay
Without, if there's no interest, then it'd be just 50,000 from operations.
and then it would be in place for when we actually need it for the project. And I guess that's my real concern is to have it in place, by the time we have the go ahead on the land.
when are we expecting that? Are we thinking?
I do not know, the FTA has looked at the NEPA and made suggestions. We incorporated those suggestions and provided it back to them. And we have not heard a response yet.
And it's just scary to think that think about putting operations spending into something until we know for sure, like, that we're not gonna go in the hole next month. I mean, it's scary.
Well, the income with the medical transportation is already on an uptick, so that's a good step forward. And then there are a number of other operations issues that have been addressed by our new HR person, which will also bring some savings, month after month savings. So we're working on it.
So I have probably a dumb question. Sorry, you guys, I'm still learning. But what does this initial funding that we would have, the $50,000, whatever, what does that have to do with our cash flow problem with payroll? Because didn't we just say that that can't be used for operations?
Correct.
Yeah, but we have grant agreements, and if those grant agreements won't allow us to use the grant funding to pay these upfront costs, we would have to pay for it out of operations.
I see what you mean.
And operations is also where our payroll comes from, so it's just
And-
kind of a straight thought.
What are we expecting in the next month and a half that needs to be covered outside
By
of
the loan?
operations?
Oh, outside.
Mhm.
Virtually everything that we have that is ongoing expense is operations at this point. And until we have a go-ahead on the project next door, that's because we have received all of the vehicles except for the ones that are included in the grant agreement for the project next door. So those 3 buses, when they do end up coming in, that's a perfect example of why we want to have this in place. Because will it be expected to pay money upfront and then wait for the reimbursement for, and they're $1 million buses. And there are 3 of them.
Okay, so what are we using this $50,000 initial amount from the loan? What are we using that for?
Can you state that again, Courtney, what that does for us?
Sure. In order to determine that the line of credit has been issued under tax rules, there must be a draw on the line. That draw has to be an amount at least equal to $50,000. The draw can be used for the project and cost of issuance. The district should draw when it has expenses to be paid. And the first of draw has to be at least $50,000.
Okay, that's sort of what I was understanding, but I'm not, I guess my question is, what are we going to be using that money for by April or whenever it is that we would be eligible?
You mean which capital project would we be using it for?
Right.
I don't know that we really have anything at this time.
Other than the vehicles that we've already received that we.
With the draw, could you just pay right back to them? Just put the money back on draw and then give it back?
How soon would we be able to pay that back, Sharon?
After it's dispersed, there's the amount that goes to Courtney, and then for the bank's legal fee and loan fee, and any excess you could then pay it back onto the line balance.
If we got those grant funds that would cover operations, that would include the fees, right? So potentially not use the loan drop or anything, just drop so that we qualify for that initial, for the IRS tax.
And then just pay those fees and then the balance back to the loan, the credit line.
So we don't, yeah.
21,500 just for startup.
I guess-
What's the time frame that we have to do the draw? Is it in a certain time?
Yeah, at closing, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, the draw needs to be done at closing. Courtney, is there any time frame, like number of days it has to be outstanding before it goes back to the line to pay it down?
I'll have to confirm and get back to you.
Okay.
Well, my thing is just if we could avoid the interest, so as
Yeah.
long as it's not the first month, you still avoid the interest, right? So if you have to hold it over the month, then you get interest. And
I'm assuming interest is in compounded daily, right?
is interest compounded daily or monthly?
Well, there's interest daily that adds up, which is due on a monthly basis. So whatever the balance is outstanding for that 31 days during that month is what the interest would be calculated on. But the thing is, if you pay it off, if you borrow it today and pay it off in a week, let's say, the interest expense on that's going to be low because you're only talking about, 5 days, let's say. If you leave it out there for 30 days and pay it off at the end of the month, then you'll have 30 days worth of interest on the 50,000.
What's the calculation to determine the daily rate for the interest that's monthly?
It's on the first page.
It shows the interest rate, but
When do we anticipate having our first capital expenditures or needing to put forward some money on the Low-No grant and all those? Like when we're like, I guess buying the property would probably be the next step, right?
Yes.
So when do we anticipate that would occur?
We can enter into those discussions as soon as we have NEPA approval. And right now that NEPA process is with FTA.
And do we have any idea of the timing on that? And of course,
Jennifer
there's
might
timing
have.
for a real estate transaction as well. I guess my what I'm thinking about is, do we just hold off on this for a couple months or something until we get closer, and then we use that $50,000, toward capital projects?
Jennifer said when FTA feels like it.
Well, it's going to take time to negotiate and time to go through the titling and all of that, to buy the property. So, and then transfer the funds at the end. So
So
if we just wait and then we use it for something like that, instead of trying to figure out something or pay it back, just wait.
If we wait to start the process, is there a potential that the terms would change? At what point are we looking at the terms might be changing? If we were to wait 30, 60, 90 days before the initial draw?
Are you asking?
One of you two. I'm not sure which would have that answer.
Comment and then Sharon can comment. The current term sheet expires March 15th. So the presumption would be if we don't close by March 15th, then then we'd go back to Sharon. Is that accurate, Sharon?
Yes.
And then she would create a new term sheet with new terms.
Is there a potential that the terms could go down?
You meaning the interest rate?
Yes.
Between now and then, I would probably say the likelihood is not. Will it go up? Again, that all depends on, what happens with interest rates, whether the Fed raises them.
Well, my
Again,
understanding is the Fed's looking at either holding or decreasing. If the Feds drop interest rates by a quarter of a point in the next quarter, would they also go down?
possibly. But I can't give you a definite on it because pricing has to be approved internally.
Well, the next board meeting is before the
Expiration
15th,
of
so
Yeah, it is.
we could maybe table and see what, if you get anything on the NEPA process by the board meeting. Might give us a better idea of the project.
Yeah, hey, I guess, Mike and everybody online was raised here that the next board meeting is before March 15th. So. That's also.
I'd like to
budget.
wait because I'd like to hear what Jennifer says about the grant being able to pay back the interest.
So she put something in the chat, Lonnie, but so it says, Jennifer, interest on short-term loans for operating assistance is eligible, but this isn't a short-term loan for operating assistance. It's a short-term interim financing for capital projects. So I guess that would be where my question is.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check with the FTA folks because this is all I could find for 5311. I didn't find anything for 5310. If I didn't find anything in STIF that says that you can't. So if you had a project within your current plan that provided for administrative or overhead costs, I don't know if you do, or even if you had contingency plan, you could utilize the funds for that. So I'm gonna have to get some clarification on 5311, but looks like 5310 is a no. And STIF is a, if you have it in your plan.
You said we do, we have a STIP project,
We have administrative project. And we also have a contingency too, don't we? We do have a contingency too, don't we? In
Yes.
the STIP project, so.
Yes, we
We have
have
that
a
in, yeah.
contingency reserve for, specifically for these projects.
What was the value of that?
That's what I'm still working on.
Even if I were you all, I would go with the state funding rather than the federal funding because it's just got more limitations on the federal funding. And the state funding is a little bit more flexible.
Agreed.
Yeah. So how does people feel about tabling this till the next board meeting?
I support that.
I support that too.
Me too.
Yeah. Mike or Janice, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm good with that too. I'm signing off too. I have to back to work.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Mike.
I'm good.
I think she's good. I think she said she's good. All right, so let's table agenda item 7.1, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Sharon, did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, no. So you're tabling this until the next meeting, which is the 15th?
No, it's the 11th, I think.
It's the 11th of March, I believe.
So you and I will have to have a conversation with the next person.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right. Thank you so very much for joining us tonight.
You are so welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both.
Thank you. Good
I'll
night.
be in touch.
Right. Okay. Now we're moving on to project updates. Looks like Janice left.
Oh, I thought she said she was still good.
She might have been going. I
Um,
don't know.
There's still 5 of us, we're okay.
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay, so we're on 9.1.
Correct.
Okay. And actually, you just got the update on that. We don't
There
know,
is no
we
Yeah.
haven't received a NEPA approval yet. And And we're still holding on the comment period on 9.2 from Proterra, which will now be Phoenix Motor. And so once that comment period is complete and they have the go ahead to be able to resume business, then we'll be able to complete that order.
And did we already, I forget what, if we had made a decision, if we're going forward with still verifying those same buses or, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think we were kind of waiting to see what was gonna happen
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah, and then the stiff project updates, I did forward you the spreadsheet so that you can, be able to utilize that to go through this. So it's easier on the computer, at least for me. But this is just, directly from Optus, which is the Oregon Public Transportation Information System, where we submit all of our reports. And so this is every project that we had in the 2019 to 21 biennium, and then by quarter, what was expended. And as you can see, a lot of them, we did not expend any funding because we hadn't started those projects yet. And some of them only had maybe one quarter where we expended funding. And so that's how we ended up with the large carry forward. And then the way that they asked us to submit projects changed for the next biennium. And so it's a little more intense to, because there are two separate funds. There's the STIF funds that are being allocated for that biennium. And then there are, that's. So then there's, the STIF carry forward funding as well. And so those two are both allocated to the specific project. But there are tasks within the project. So for fixed route transit, that's one project, but there are 7 tasks within that project that are the various different routes that the funding is allocated to. And then the same thing for demand response, and we have admin and call center and the bus fund and the I think the last one is the.
For this STIP project?
For the one that ended in 21-23.
Yeah, we had admin, vehicle purchase, expansion vehicles, van replacement, capital improvement, rollover, and bus shelters.
Oh, bus shelters, yes. Yes, so I am working on finishing that out. I'm matching my numbers up to make sure that Sherry and I have the same numbers. She's already done this work in a different format. And I'm going through and verifying my work because I'm the one that input those reports and making sure that the documentation was there, those kinds of things. So that when we do have a STIF audit, we will definitely pass it. And I will have more of that information to you. And then ridership was I guess that's.
General manager's report.
Yep. Ridership was actually the only additional thing that I had on my report, other than what we've already discussed, because a lot of my time and energy this time around went into the board minutes and creating the packet, those kinds of things. I also did have some significant meetings though, and that we had a Southern Oregon Transit Managers meeting. And we had that at ODOT where we had some guest presenters, and one of the presenters, after he finished with his information, he was talking about the various different kinds of plans that he works on. And he shared that his the part of it that you never hear about transit is the personal part. And his parents built a home on his land when they retired, and now they both go to dialysis like 3 times a week. And so twice a day they have a vehicle that shows up on their property. That's how he wakes up in the morning, is to the backup beeper of the vehicle when they're picking up one of his parents. And he says the thing of it is that they love it. It's their chance to get out and about and talk to somebody. He just raved about how wonderful our drivers were and how great the service was, and how he has peace of mind knowing that his parents can get where they need to go while he's still able to do his job. So that was a quite unexpected testimony to how well our service works for some people. So that was awesome. I did attend one day of the special districts training over in Seaside. And that was very interesting as well. I got a lot out of especially the safe training, and got some more information that will also bring a return in funding to us. So that was all good too. So that's it. That's it, and that's all. It's going. Oh, well, the ridership keeps going up. We had a 21% increase this last year for the fixed route ridership, which is why I believe that we are more than capable of meeting a 10% increase again this year. And then sustaining that throughout the rest of the year. There are natural fluctuations in ridership that happen just year over year. But I believe that 10% is conservative, that we can do that. There was also a 16% increase in the demand response ridership for the year. And that also could have been higher if we had not had multiple drivers out for periods of time. Any questions on all of that?
It might be kind of nice to get that testimony of the story that you just told us, maybe put on the website or shared out to Nextdoor or something.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. I'll do that. But we're also going to share it at the OTA level when they go to the legislature with the transportation package.
Yeah, would you let us know when that is going to be? I mean, I would love to go to Salem and listen in on that.
Absolutely. I can also provide the website that has information about all the different transit providers throughout the state. And that is by House District, Senate District, or county.
Perfect. Yeah. They provided a lot of information about special district bills that are coming up at the conference this last weekend. So I wrote all of those down. There are a lot of bills. I don't know how they read all of them. So, but yeah, that would be great if you could share that out.
Absolutely.
Any questions on the ridership numbers? No questions? Okay. Move on to item 11, ODOT update, Jennifer.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah.
Let's see, a couple of things. We have the grants that are coming up due, the applications for the 5339, 5310, and 5304, which are due March 13th. Our agency periodic reports and SPRs, the stiff periodic reports, are due on the 15th. So happy Valentine's Day to everyone that is trying to get their reports done. And in addition, we are looking at doing some more training. We're going to be rolling that out. We do have a new operations manager in ODOT that was hired. They just announced that last Friday. And her name is Vanessa Vasir, I believe is what her name is. And she will be starting on the 19th. Not sure what all that's going to entail. So we'll see. She doesn't have a ton of transit experience and is from the metro area. So therefore, I am a smidge concerned about rural transit, but we'll just have to make our voices heard. So I gave you guys an update about a meeting that we had with Cheryl, and she shared that with the letter last quarter or last meeting. I just wanted to give you an update on where we are. So as of today, we did get that first quarter's report in. Cheryl got that in on the 15th. And then we got the reimbursements. I think you have all of your reimbursements paid now.
We do.
Okay, good. So those should have come in. We did have a couple that we needed to do a little bit of working on, but we did get those in. The one thing, I do have 2 items on here that are still needing to be completed. We needed to make sure that there is cross training and somebody in place. And I think Cheryl mentioned that, but we provided time until the end of March to have that completed. So we want to have the name of the individuals that are going to be doing the, being able to submit the APR and the SPR. And then they also have to be trained. So we need to have show that that has happened. And then the other thing that I really didn't get was just a plan to ensure that the second quarter's report, which is due this week, is completed. So that was one thing that I would have liked to have had more information on, just how you're gonna get that completed. I do want to let you know that I have let my supervisors know that you guys are, you know, last month you were really close to running out of money to pay your employees, and then hearing this again this quarter or this month is a little bit troubling, because we do not want to have another agency have issues similar to what happened with Sunset Empire. We do have the ability to request from our compliance folks to do a technical assistance training, which is RLS and Associates. So if you are interested in that, I could make some inquiries and find out. So what they would do is they would come and spend a couple of days just going over your financials and some of the policies and procedures similar to what they do on a regular compliance review, but then they would provide additional technical assistance. So that is something that we can definitely look into and offer. And I think it would probably be something that would be worthwhile. We probably would not be able to get it, because currently RLS and Associates is doing a nationwide training for triennial reviews and state management reviews. So they will not be available until probably May. But that is something that I can definitely look into if that's something that you're interested in. And again, I highly recommend those trainings that I sent you guys the links on. They have those financial trainings, and it gives you more information about that. And then Cheryl had talked to somebody about board training. We can't, ODOT can't just go out and hire somebody. Unfortunately, we have to put out an RFP or a small recruit procurement, we can't just do anything like go out and ask somebody to train. It would be great if we could, but, so we are looking into that. So thank you, Cheryl, for that information, because I think the board training would be really great to have.
Yeah, she's an exceptional speaker, so, and she has quit doing anything other than transit. She said her final year's doing trainings, she is just focusing on transit, so you would probably find that her prices are less than what you would expect.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing that we are looking at doing a training on is something called verbal judo. I don't know if any of you've taken a class in verbal judo, but it's pretty cool. It provides training opportunities for the drivers who deal with some difficult passengers. Provides them with kind of tools in their tool belt. So I'm hoping that we have a possibility of doing that in the next month or so, depending on if we can get, because I believe the person is already, a couple of people, somebody from the DMV said that they had that training. And so if they did it, we might be able to play off their RFP and get it into us. So we'll see. We have to do all sorts of funky things in order to not have to do a full-blown RFP. And I think that's about it. I was going to have another managers meeting in April, but my daughter is due to have her baby, and so I canceled it. So we will not be having a training until July now. And that will be towards the latter part of July. And I've got to get it in before August, because I just found out last week that my youngest daughter is going to have a baby. So I've got babies coming out all over the place. And that's all I have.
Well, congratulations, Jennifer. That's awesome.
Thank you. Very excited.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, congratulations. So with that, do we have any public comment?
I'm just wondering if, on expansion, if you're gonna have a parking garage, so I went and drove in here, you go, yeah, there's so many buses, people park their car. Is there any provision for that cause it's like, there's not much space up here.
Yeah.
That's what they're all about, having parking.
Yes.
Building.
It is a problem.
Yes.
I'll
Yes,
go-
there will be covered parking for the buses, and there will be a separate covered parking for the electric buses.
And
Yeah.
what about space for employees parking? And that's what I'm asking.
Oh, well, so they'll park where the bus parking is.
So they pull a bus out, put back their vehicle in there, is that kind of?
Yeah, initially it won't be that crowded, but there's room for expansion to the point where, yes, that's what they would end up doing. Yeah.
Just one of those things you go, yeah, I can't park there anymore because all the buses are there,
Yeah. We have a number of them going to auction as well, so
Okay.
that will free up some space. Yeah.
Just a curiosity is, when you make the budget up this for the next year, biennium, are you keeping in mind how much you're spending? I mean, each year it's not like this, it's like that. And so I'm just curious as to whether or not if this is taken into account, I guess, what curiosity is. And I'm sure it is. Do you have a percentage that you work with, or is it, you just go, well, cross your fingers or what?
You'll hear a whole lot more about that in the budget committee.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be the, what, April 1st? That's the first.
15th, I think.
Yeah, I believe it's April 15th.
That's what I read.
April 15th, and then from 8 to April 16th, 17th.
Yes.
Yeah,
And we'll have
well,
some-
we get it to look at. April.
Oh, on April 1st, yes.
Uh-huh.
April Fools.
Okay, that's all.
So the agenda build for next session. We're gonna need to bring up the line of credit again,
Mhm.
goals for the agency again. The consent agenda. Obviously budget committee stuff.
Do we need budget committee stuff?
Oh, no, that's right, that's March, it's April, never mind.
I think.
I got my months mixed up, so. Yeah, then the regular project updates.
I will have information for you for training that is gonna be required.
Oh, yeah.
There's a new,
The finance thing.
well, no, there's a new requirement from Secretary of State and Oregon Government Ethics. Where all board members need to be trained at least once per term. And if you're not trained, then there's the possibility of up to $1,000 fine, which would be a civil fine against you, not against the board. And the board is prevented from paying for that. So it's incentive for us to ensure that you all get the training.
Yeah, I've read about
So
that, but they
question
haven't.
for you, because I have to take it as an employee for ODOT, can I?
Does that qualify?
Does it
Yes.
qualify? Okay.
Oh, they haven't actually issued like any classes yet.
No, they haven't. So that's the other caveat. It was effective as of January 1st, but they have not approved
As
it.
long as they do it before June 2027, I'm good though. I prefer to do it much sooner, but.
Yeah, so we'll get that. As soon as there's more information about it, I'll provide that for you.
Yeah, I think the SDA, they'll probably update us as well.
Did you say once every quarter?
No,
Once every term.
Term, that's,
Oh,
I
term,
might have said
okay.
quarter, but that's not what I meant.
Yeah, it's once per term.
Okay.
I've got quarterly reports on my mind.
It used to be covered with the special districts, but it still can be as long as you have under $1 million, I think, budget, right?
And well, then they've submitted a training to be approved. So, the Oregon Government Ethics Committee has to approve the training, as something that qualifies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else for the agenda?
Lonnie's got his hand up.
Lonnie,
Oh, no, that's my mouse. Oh, sorry.
disregard, please. All right, so nothing else on the agenda, I think.
So, I have a question,
Yeah.
because with Mike and Janice leaving,
Yeah, I
I
know.
don't wanna do,
Yeah, I
An
prefer to have more
executive
people for the
session.
executive session.
so I guess I would make a motion to table the executive session to the March meeting.
Okay, as far as I know, that's all. So Sarah Thompson made a motion to table the executive session until the March meeting. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second by Lonnie. All those in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Okay. Did you say something, Doug? Aye. Any opposed? What's that, Doug?
Well, now I'm afraid to say anything because I was about to say no. Didn't say anything. But no to table it.
Okay, so yeah, motion passes, we're tabling the executive session.
So I guess add that to the.
Yeah, add that to the agenda. And do I have to say the exact numbers for the next agenda?
Yes.
So yeah, the executive session ORS 192.660 parentheses 2, close parentheses, I, close parentheses, ORS 192.660 parentheses 8, close parentheses. Okay.
We'll do that.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, everybody. And with that, adjourn the meeting.
Awesome.